And we are
And
back.
now we are recording the post-conversation only for you, patrons. Thank you so much for supporting us, for helping us, improving our content. So now is a without guidelines conversation.
The good conversation.
Yeah, the good conversation where we talk about where we talk bad about Dungeons and Dragons. It sucks. No. Because it's a private.
It doesn't suck, but it's a very good intro for a role-playing game. And we have so Jim knows understands what our platform. You said that Third Act Publishing want to open arms for the community to as a platform to improve games or to develop RPGs, and this is our main statement also. Because Role Initiative, we just want everyone to not only play with us, but play with other members of the community. And since the last 2018, we started to have a goal to develop RPG design in Portuguese, because we have a lot of RPG philosophers, but we don't have a game that is made in Portuguese for Portuguese. So we have people that write or develop games in English, but there are any in Portuguese. So this was our main goal for 2018. There is one, Joaquin. No.
Let's not confuse Portuguese from Portugal with Portuguese from Brazil. It's a bit different. There are two separate communities. We are trying to bridge the Atlantic with them. They are really nice. They have great games. They also have translations in Portuguese, but it's their dialect. It's a bit different. It's the same as I don't know, British English and Australian English.
Right.
Yeah,
different
it's
accents,
totally
different
different.
expressions, but it's basically the same language. We are very protective of our little niche of the language. So we don't really enjoy the translations made by Brazilians. We are expecting something ours, something made by Portuguese, really the Portuguese. We've had a couple of games made by Portuguese people, but they have been only in English because they thought they could take on the international market.
And because in Portugal there aren't the community isn't too large to have a publisher to develop these games. So this is our main goal, but we don't want to write only our games. We want to help others to write their own games. So that's why we talk about Role Initiative, about we are a platform to branch to our community to bring more games, to develop more games, and we are we just want to help them. So
it's awesome.
It was very cool.
It's awesome, Bruno, that you bring up this type of direction for this conversation, because we actually have had a filler question regarding how do you promote Reach of Titan, Jim? What tools can you share with us? Is it difficult? Is it expensive to get your product out? Is it a full-time job? We already know it is, but it is rewarding in itself. There's a lot of sub-questions in the how are you promoting? How do you promote? How do you publish the game? Because here in Portugal, we have projects. We have even Portuguese project, but there isn't even a single one published yet.
Okay.
Help us,
yes.
Jim.
I can give some guidelines on this.
Awesome.
So you know,
I'm writing.
Okay. Now, obviously, I'm going to state this. My experience comes from clearly the U.S. market, and I can't speak specifically towards yours, but communities are communities, and I think most communities interact with each other in give or take the same kind of ways. You know, the couple things that really help is the first thing I'm going to say to understand is to know when you can start promoting it. I think this is the biggest thing a lot of people miss the boat on, which is I didn't start promoting Reach of Titan until that playtest packet was in the world. Because the problem is there's so many people out there with ideas and concepts, and we get them here all the time. But until someone can physically touch, play, and interact with your thing, the end of the day, they don't care about it. They really don't. They might be intellectually interested in you. If I came on the show, I was like, I'm going to make a game about giant creatures. Cool. But what else do you do from that if it doesn't exist anywhere and there's no way to interact and touch with it? So the first step I say is to understand when to start interacting with it, which is until you have something that people can actively engage with in some way. Even if it's just a 10-page document, it doesn't have to be huge, but something to give them a way to interact and engage with. Until you have that, sure, like you'll have a podcast or a stream, both, right? Is it go out as audio too, or is it just whatever you put it with?
It's content.
That's fine. Yeah, you have content. There's the one. That's right. My press writer over there's got my words for me. You
don't know what we have. We call it content.
Right. So you all have content. So obviously, if you all are doing a game, you can start talking about it now because you have people already engaged in the content thing that they're engaging with, which is the show that you do. And that can get them up, hyped, and excited up until you get to the point of like, here is the playtest document. Here is the thing. Once you have that thing, then the goal is to start getting people actively engaged with it. So the first thing you want to go to is your core people who I would say you engage with on a direct personal level. So like people listening to this conversation are probably your Patreon backers, and they are obviously at the highest level of engagement with what you all do. You have your conventions that you talk about that you go to. You probably interact and probably see a lot of the same regular people. Those are the people where you go, hey, we're starting this thing. I'm giving this to you. I want you to play test it. I want you to give me feedback on it and start opening a dialogue, because what they're going to do is they're going to start talking about that game with their friends and who they engage with. And you build a core audience for then when you start onboarding more people, there's already people active and engaged they can work with. So like once we started the Kickstarter for Reach of Titan, it's okay, I'm bringing a whole bunch of new people on, and suddenly the people that have played my early play tests over the last 4 years have come on and go, oh, I had this great experience and I did this and I told this story, and people are like, oh, now I can talk and engage. We can get that community engagement, and that's what then keeps those new people that arrive there, because they have something to engage with. Yeah. So that's sort of your level 2. Okay. So then at that point, you've got sort of have built a core base of an audience for a game. And that can be small. I mean, that can be 12 people, and that's fine. Like if it's several hundred people, then you're doing really, really good. I don't have several hundred people in that core base. But, having a core that's actively, working and engaging is that first step. Then from there, it is reaching out to the wider RPG community. Okay. And that is, what I'm doing here for Reach of Titan. If we cut through all the nuts and bolts and all the wonderful conversation we had, I'm promoting a product I'm selling. Like, that's what I'm here to do. And I'm glad that you all allowed me to come on and do that. But it's reaching out. Podcasts and streams are so popular right now and relatively easy to get on. Like if you're doing a thing, random people will email you and just ask you to be on their show. It's crazy, right? Like these things happen. And
hey, you random people.
Right, exactly. And as you all could probably imagine, if you had a game designer who wrote you an email that was like, hey, I'm doing something new and cool, I would love to come on your show and talk about it, would you let them come on your show? Yes, because you're content producers and you need content. Yeah. Every other podcast in the world is exactly the same. So then it's starting to go on those and reaching out to going like RPG Academies are a really great one, going like, hey, we're doing a cool thing. We really I love to come on and talk about it. You approach respectfully and all that, but I love to come on and talk about it. And not 100% of people are going to say yes, but a shockingly large number will. It's a small community, and then that gets you out and exposed to a wider audience. And then when that wider audience looks deeper, they find your core group that's actively engaging with what you're doing and gives them reasons to stick around. So that's kind of the sort of the grassroots outline, if you will, of how you build it. And then once you go to Kickstarter, well, if you want to know Kickstarter advice, I charge 7.5%. I do Kickstarter consulting. I'm not going to be that asshole to y'all. But I do actually do Kickstarter consulting for a lot of different projects now, because that has its own math and science and all behind it. But the fact is, going to Kickstarter and crowdfunding is never going to work until you get those 3 steps first. Like that is the first thing to do to build. The biggest mistake most people go to Kickstarter is really a place you go to monetize the audience you already have. It's not a place that you go to build an audience. Now, the better audience you've already built, the bigger and bigger that it will do. And while I mentioned sort of these 3 steps to community and grassroots build up, what really, really helps is the number of times you've done this with the number of different games. And if you're good at what you do and you produce good content and you produce decently quality content, then that core that you built up for your first game then feeds into your next game and the next game and continues to get larger and larger. One of the nuts and bolts money aspect I didn't talk about with Reach of Titan is I needed to know I could do a certain level dollar amount going to Reach of Titan because, well, you all have seen the art. I know what I wanted this book to look like, and that art is expansive. I'm most certainly not making that. So I needed to get to a certain level. So that was one of the other practical reasons it got pushed back is every Kickstarter I've done, I've seen a sort of an increase up. Of we went, the first one, Reflections, did stupid well. I mean, we did 20,000, which very few people do 20,000 on their first Kickstarter. Did very, very well. And then Satanic Panic did 30, and then Dominant Magica did 47, and now Reach of Titan is somewhere going to end up, based on the metrics, high 50s, around 60. So each one has gotten sort of those progressive steps higher, and hopefully the future ones will continue to get higher as well. So that's kind of, I would give you as a basic roadmap, like what I would recommend to you as to kind of a direction to go.
Awesome.
Yeah, don't expect strike gold, right?
Yeah, in Europe we cannot go to Kickstarter, so we have Indiegogo and other platforms.
You're not allowed to use Kickstarter at all?
Nope.
Really?
It's Portugal. I think that's a Portuguese thing because there's some.
It's
in
a law
order
issue.
to get funded, Kickstarter has to be a company in Portugal. Yeah. If it's an international company, you can't really ask for money from Kickstarter or use the campaigns. It's something we're still trying to solve. Hopefully, in the next couple of years, Kickstarter will probably get into Portugal because Indiegogo charges an arm and a leg.
Yeah,
and Indiegogo is not where the primary RPG community, both U.S. and international, are. Like they go to Kickstarter. It's what they're used to. It's what they're used to seeing. Like you want to be on Kickstarter.
Yes.
Your goals with that would be to do specifically a Portuguese game. Is that correct?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now, yes,
one of our goals, of course. Yeah, a realistic goal.
Okay. This is a much deeper conversation. If you all, this is opening a door to a much deeper conversation. Let me put it like that. If you all are getting to the point where you've completed those 3 steps and you want to move forward and Kickstarter is still a problem, we could figure out something with Third Act Publishing to do it through us, and I would totally be on board with you all to do that. Again, that is opening a doorway to a much more involved conversation about details, but I'm going to throw that out there for y'all.
Yeah,
that I would absolutely do that, and we could find a way to make that work if that keeps being a problem for you, because like one of the big things that we are really trying to see is like internationally it feels like tabletop is still so small. Like we almost kind of feel like we've maybe hit a saturation within the US. Like it's kind of actually really damn popular right now, which is great. But it's not, and it's because I think the exact problem that you all say, like all RPGs are English language centric. I shouldn't say all, but like really the overwhelming majority of them are. And that's bad for the continual growth. So anything that can help expand that out, I want to do everything that I can for it. So that's why I want to open that door. If we go that direction of, I would be happy for us to have a deeper conversation about that.
Jim, that's
I
awesome.
think what Jim is almost saying that if he wants a Portuguese translation for Reach of Titans, he can reach to.
We can definitely do that. Yeah, I've got a whole host of them. We didn't even talk about Good Lord, Satanic Panic. This is actually a thing I was thinking about because we didn't talk about my second game, Satanic Panic. Was the Satanic Panic, was that a thing over there? Like where in the 80s everyone freaked out and thought D&D was actually summoning demons? Okay.
Nah.
We were to the point, I don't know how much you all know about it, but we were to the point here where, I mean, there was book burnings, there was church groups, there was protests, like people went fucking crazy, pardon my language, lost their damn minds over this thing. To this day, because my mother still buys into all that, to this day I have to tell her, I go, oh, did you all still do that thing? And I'm like, yeah, it's that samurai game that I play. Because if I told her I played Dungeons and Dragons, then we would have to have a deep conversation. Like,
so how we will explain that you will now killing larger than life creature? Oh, good job, Jim.
Like, oh, it's these weird games that Jim does. I'm like, yeah, just keep it at that, Mom, and we'll just keep
Jim is a writer. Jim is a writer.
He's creating content.
Yes, exactly. Creating content. Yes, there we go.
He has a radio show.
so then maybe this game won't translate nearly as well over there, but I did a game because I just found it so absurd, the whole Satanic Panic. So I called it Satanic Panic, and essentially the concept of the game is it's a fictionalized version of the 1980s where everything everyone was saying about D&D was actually true. Playing the game turns you into horrible monsters. It summons demons, and you play government agents that go around and shoot groups of tabletop players. Like that's the version of the game. And it's,
I have a laugh reading it.
It's got some stupid cool mechanics. It's got actually another feedback loop that I fucking love. It's one of my favorite mechanics that I've made, and I'm like, I shouldn't have attached it to this weird satirical game, but whatever, it's there, it's happy.
You can always recycle mechanics.
Exactly, always recycle mechanics. But that's what gets me up in the morning. I gotta make the new and exciting. If I made one good mechanic, I can make 100. That's my motto.
Yeah,
well,
and that's a very good one.
Jim, thank you. You are really awesome. Let me ask you.
Sure.
Go, Brun. You have something there.
You were saying when you are promoting, one of the things that I get from it's prototype fast and cheap, and give the prototype as soon as you can to your audience. And this brings something that in Portugal is very common. We are a very tight. We are a small community, and we have a lot of ideas, of course, but everyone keeps them for itself because they always think that the other person right next to him, to other, can steal the idea and make the idea from themselves. So in the last year, we discovered several projects that are awesome projects, really, really good ones that are at the same level of the international stuff that we are seeing in the RPG community. And we said, come on, guys, we want to test it not because we want that idea, because this is a freaking good idea. So what do you say to the people that have projects that doesn't want to share them because they are afraid of losing them?
Okay. There is. I've got two things. I have a nice piece of advice, and I have a not nice piece of advice. Okay. I have an amount of tough love on this. Once I start talking to designers, you get a little bit more tough love and a little less smiley Jim, because I'm like, fucking want you all to be amazing. Be amazing. So my nice piece of advice is, the goal. I hope, I really hope that the goal of everyone in the community is to make the community grow at this stage. And if there are people that are actively willing to rip you off or do your thing and spread it around, win-win, okay? Go for it, okay? It's fantastic. I actually had, weirdly, and I don't think anyone was directly ripping me off, there's two other giant fighting RPG Kickstarters that are on live right now. One's based off a Fate system, and one's one of the RPG design things that they're doing. And I had people come to me and this sounds very similar to Reach of Titan. Are you worried that they ripped you off? And I'm like, no, I wanted this thing, so I made it. Thank God other people are making these things. We have been remaking D&D for 40 fucking years. Pardon my language.
No problem.
Sure. No, there is so much room still to be done. You should not care if someone's gonna rip you off. Now, all right. Jim puts on his mean hat for a second.
Oh God, get ready.
Get ready. If someone can rip off your game and make a better game than you, you don't deserve to write it. How about that? Okay. And while that sounds stupid mean because I phrased it that way, the reality of it is, the real work in a game is putting in the work. It's a common saying, ideas are cheap. Okay, there's 1,000 ideas around. Ideas are cheap. It is the people that actually sit down, write out the words, play test it, lay it out, get it in front of community, do the 3 steps that I talked about. That's all the work in the world. If someone can take your game, make it better, and do all of that before you can do it after they ripped you off halfway through, you deserve to lose it. Fuck you. Again, I'm gonna cuss because we're now off the show, so pardon me on that.
Awesome.
I keep a nice friendly demeanor, but I cuss like a sailor when I'm not on the mic. So these after hours ones, you get that. But no, that's my honest opinion, and I say that in the mean way, and then qualify it to be like, the reality is no one's going to really be able to do that. If they are copying you from a point where you've already started that process, that they're going to catch up and beat you. Anyone that's got the wherewithal to put in that work already has 100 ideas up in their head. What I tell everyone is share early, share often, put it out in the world, do everything you can, because hopefully that's going to inspire other people to do a thing. If giant creatures become a genre of RPGs and I have the biggest and prettiest one, that only helps me. A classic example, we talk about Powered by the Apocalypse. Of course, we all know that was originally based off a game called Apocalypse World. Did Apocalypse World make Powered by the Apocalypse popular? It did not. No. It did not at all. Dungeon World did. A game that I don't want to call it a ripoff because they give it truth to it, is what made it popular. And Vincent Baker, who originally made Powered by the Apocalypse and Apocalypse World, has said about that game, he goes, the best thing that happened to me is that they ripped it off for Dungeon World. He goes, I have sold 25 times the copies I would have if Dungeon World didn't exist. It was the best thing to come about it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, my take on it is, no one should ever be concerned about having their work stolen. It's just not something that's really going to happen. And again, we're all at a stage where we're just trying to build the community as a whole. So more people engaging and interacting with things is good. And again, at the end of the day, we're all just ripping off Gygax, and Gygax just ripped off Tolkien, and Tolkien just ripped off folklore for hundreds and thousands of years. We're all just ripping each other off.
Everything is a remix.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Except my mechanics, which are new and inventive, and no one's ever done this.
Exactly.
So, guys, if you want new and truly inventive mechanics, go get Reach of Titan. About getting Reach of Titan, I have here a very specific question a very specific question that I left for the post-conversation.
Oh, okay.
Regarding the settlement leader pledge. It's very specific, I said. So you will receive a person who pledged the settlement leader. The description is as follows. You will receive everything from the Titan Hunter level with a personalized signed copy of Reach of Titan from Jim McClure. You will also get a unique aspect of the world's lore that will be provided to you only. What does this really mean, an individual piece of world lore provided to only you?
Yeah, so this is a crazy idea, and I'm not gonna lie, this is bonkers. So the concept that I have essentially, and we talked about lore on the main show, and how like the lore of the world is a puzzle to be solved, and I even gave you all a huge secret that no one else has seen yet about what's inside those fertility titans, right?
Thank you.
So having all that, those are the kind of pieces of lore that are scattered all throughout the game. And again, if you put together all the different 60 so pieces of lore that are going to be in the book, you're going to get an idea and understanding if you solve that puzzle of what's going on in the world. But there's more information to be had, and those that are backing at these higher levels are going to get essentially a secret piece of information, and for each person it will be different and unique, and that they will be the only human being on planet Earth that has this extra piece of knowledge about what's going on. So you don't need any of that to get, the understanding of how to play the game or understanding what's going on in the world. But if you want extra details, like, the example I use, and God, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but in Lord of the Rings, like obviously, assume people have seen and know Lord of the Rings, yes, our main villain, if we watch the movies, is Sauron, but he's actually, if you deep into the rules, is being controlled by whatever the big Uber demon is, okay? Yep. The knowledge that he's actually being controlled by the big Uber demon would be like one of these secret pieces of lore. It's not directly connected to the core thing we need to know, but it's something that you're going to know that literally no one else does. And then it's your right to either share that with the community or keep it to yourself. It's completely up to you. So for those that are willing to put in a couple extra bucks to help with the Kickstarter, that's sort of a unique piece that will be yours and yours alone, and you'll have the right to do what you want with that information.
That's
kind of what that is.
Very clever.
It's gamification at its best.
Scarcity and power, completely.
Yeah. And Jim, when you had this idea, do you think it will be created a game within a game where the pledgers will try to combine all the individual pieces and make a game? That
is my hope.
That is
honestly,
awesome.
Yes. That is my hope is that the community will work together to try and figure out, because even though, like, again, as I said, like the core game with the puzzle to put together, it's not like everything is going to be black and white. There's going to be levels of interpretation that could be had, and the extra pieces of information will at times add clarity and at times add more layers of complication to that information. So it is my hope, you never know until the community starts acting with it, but it is my hope that the community will work together and sort of have these conversations about what's going on and what can be done and how everything fits together and what everything exactly means. So, that's one of those like feel good things. If you ever get that as a designer, it's like, oh my God, that's the holy grail. So I don't know that it's going to happen, but a lot of people have requested, and we've already had some of the backers at those higher levels go like, yeah, I'm going to share it with the community so we can all figure this out together. And we've had a couple that have said, nope, I'm keeping mine for mine. Which is entirely their right. So, that's the fun that we've got going on with that.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, is the Titan's lore the next game in Kickstarter?
just do the lore. The terrible thing is you all gave me a compliment earlier that you may have to retract in 6 months. We're going to see, because the number one thing that's been requested that I do next on this is do a conversion to 5th edition for all the monsters. And I'm torn because, again, that doesn't get me up excited in the morning. I'm going to have to gruel through it. But the other side is I go, as a person who pays the bills doing this, I know how well that would do on Kickstarter. So we might end up doing that next. But this project has been big enough. I think I'm going to be supporting this project for the next several years with additional stuff. I think there's a good, strong enough community that we're all going to enjoy it together and learn and dig through all that wonderful fun.
We totally understand, Jim. We are actually facing the same dilemma, where every Monday we are developing the best Portuguese bestiary as supplement for Dungeons and Dragons with Portuguese creatures, because we find out that we have actually awesome folklore, Portuguese folklore, and no one uses it. Awesome.
That's awesome.
But it's a supplement for Dungeons and Dragons, and obviously it's not.
Come on, Andre. It's. I think you have to pause and to show Jim the advantage that we are doing it. And
I can
you share your screen? Yeah. Can you share your screen, Andre?
Yeah, of course.
We started. It's the first step.
It's fucking awesome, Jim.
We're still like
I'm excited.
At least 25 to go.
Okay.
But it was the first. It was very well received, and it's actually a very good.
And you're going to love it because the illustrator is awesome.
Yeah. So we managed to get this illustration.
Show the video. Come on.
The video. Okay. I didn't know you wanted the video. Wait.
Come on, man.
Okay, the video, yeah. We managed to get this illustration by our patrons. Thank you, patrons. It's so the creature is an individual that when we look like a ghost, okay.
Yeah, it's a restless soul.
Yeah, good.
It's the concept of the restless soul that's haunting people and keeping them trapped in a house or. Somewhere, and it doesn't really attack them directly, but it does something really weird, like it grows a lot and it arches its back to behind and beneath his back the arch becomes something kind of like a portal, or
it's like when you look at it, and the more you look at the creature, it grows, but it does not grow taller. It grows and arcs. As you can see, the neck starts to bend, and the body, everything bends in an arc. And when you go inside the arc, terrible things happen. It's like in between the curse and banishment effects. So we didn't even know that we had this creature in Portugal, and we talked with a historic professor, and he shared with us in a roll for diplomacy conversation, and then we started making Dungeons and Dragons creatures, and I can even show you the last image from our illustrator, Portuguese illustrator, of course. We are trying to do everything in Portuguese, and even the first character monster stat, monster sheet. Yeah, the first monster sheet is even in Portuguese, and I can say, Jim, we don't have Dungeons and Dragons in Portuguese here. We don't have a translation. It does not exist, and we are trying to do two things at the same time. But it's hard because people are not used to using the Portuguese terms like speed, grappling, every type
lawful
of...
good. Oh my god, lawful good.
The people in chat were...
Christ, translating lawful
they
good.
were arguing with each other for 10 minutes in Twitch chat, which would be the best term for lawful good. 10 minutes. It's crazy. Because unfortunately we have a educational level, a good education level regarding English. So everyone plays games. Previously Fortnite, now Apex Legends. So everyone knows English. Yeah, I know you're joking. Everyone knows the basic English. So there's not even one Portuguese term, and we are trying to make it, but it's hard because
you exactly said it. It's hard, and that's why no one else is doing it. That looks so good, and that bit of lore and stuff, it's so wildly different than anything that I've seen before, and that's what's so cool about it. Essentially is the goal to do like a compilation of these? Is that what essentially you're going for? And they're all going to be like specifically like Portuguese folklore and things like that? Is that what we're going for?
Where's my book? I have
Mine's
here
over
the book,
there.
but I don't
I can
know.
go get mine.
I have here. No need. It's based on the this stands for bestiary traditional Portuguese. You see, like best from beast. Traditional Portuguese. So it's the traditional bestiary, Portuguese bestiary.
Congratulations, you have a chief level 1 of Portuguese.
And this is a book, a child's book with...
not really. We actually...
It's a child, but not for child.
Yeah, not for sure, because like we have here creatures that kill children, and
kids need to be told their stories more anyway. My opinion.
We actually have a few folklore creatures that are dedicated to kill and kidnap kids.
Specifically
To kidnap kids.
That's fantastic.
Incredible. The women of the well with sharp and long metal nails that grab kids and pull them into the well
and drown them.
And drown them or take them away.
What a really nice way to say to your kid, don't get near the well.
What a cool combat encounter is that? Fighting something in a well. It's that vertical I've never done anything like that in D&T. You've got a first stage where sort of it has a defensive position, then you have to get down inside. That's where my brain went with it. That's so cool. So you've done one of these at this point.
One.
What's the hold up on doing more?
Yeah, we will converting everything. But the beautiful thing is that, as you said, not always D&D works best for this type of monsters.
Sure.
A unique game would work best, but we know that the community wants D&D, as you are feeling that community wants your titans in D&D, because it will be a success, and we will see that happen. But yeah, eventually maybe.
So the choice you need to make is what you all then have several projects, several very interesting ones. Is which of those do you bring to the community first?
Yeah.
And as we talked about, creative people will have plenty of creative ideas, and these are great creative ideas. That's the decision that you need to make. Which one of those? I love this. This is so good. So now the question is, do you give it to your audience who's going to have the largest amount of audience that you're going to get, which is doing it for D&D, if we're being honest? Or do you start your own game and start building up that community for it? If you were hiring me as a business consultant, I'll give you the free advice. I would say, go ahead, because as you stated, no one's really making specific Portuguese content right now. Go ahead and do the thing they're already interacting with. This is business consultant Jim. You can take the advice, you can leave the advice, because then that gets your name out there as we are making Portuguese RPG content. We are the people that have actually done it and published it, and here it is. And then when you start the next thing is, now here is our game. And then that builds very naturally into that. So again, you can take the advice, you can leave the advice, whatever, but that is the advice I would give to you in that regard of, as you're looking to enter it and not many people in that area have entered it, like that seems to me, again, the most logical stance from a purely business standpoint of what I would recommend to you.
Awesome, Jim, just to have another point of view, what Andre is doing with Monster Monday is also a way that the community can participate in our stream, and one of the main goals for the program is to build the monster inside the stream. So there's no work after or before the stream, because everything happens in the stream, and this kind of doesn't belong to Andre. It belongs with Andre and the community. So we are building all the monsters in that book. We are going to build it. I don't know how many years we're going to need it.
It's community driven during the stream.
One, the first one is it was 3 weeks, but I think the next one will be 1 to 2 if without testing it, and then we're testing it. But that's the main goal for the program. But in our team, only in our team, we have other projects that are already in developing. For Daniel Carvalho is our main writer, and he has a game called Asylum. Okay. And in Asylum, it's a new way to tell horror stories. And it's a very heavy game, but it's very easy to play because it has...
not mechanic heavy, theme
heavy. And one of the first things that I see in this game that I don't see in others is the question that the caretaker does to all the players is what you guys don't want to see in this game. And in this game, and we are talking about, do you want to see rape, incest, or something like ripping your bones out? And laying out this question out makes the first feel of horror and the first feel of I'm getting into something that I don't want to.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah, very
it's
uncomfortable.
Setting up expectations also.
But we also saw in this game that when the game designer is the caretaker and is telling the story, for us is just another RPG game. But when the designer plays it without being the caretaker and plays as a character, it's a completely other level of engagement with that character, because he knows why he made the game like that. He knows the feeling, the goal of that game. And when we play with them, I saw Danielle playing Asylum yesterday in our improv program, and it was, oh my god! He opens it took the head of a patient without even telling. So this is the feel that Daniel is bringing into the table with one out of games. I think there's a small tweaks in the text that we are going to do, and starting thinking about illustrating and designing the cover art and or all that things. I'm also designing a game, but in the completely other spectrum.
Completely.
I'm designing a game for kids playing RPG games, but I don't want them to read the book. I want them to see the book. So I want to aim for 3 to 7 year old kids, because I have kids and I do a lot of RPG with them. I want it to be like not a children's book for kids, but a children's book for adults to play games with the kids. And I'm going to aim it for I want to change the way that the parents tell stories for the kids at night, and the easiest way to do this is to let the kids tell the stories themselves. So this is my premise for the book, and is why I'm designing this game, because I have it's 5 years old. It's already made 5, and she loves to tell. She loves to be the monkey that is telling the story, and the levels of imagination that kids have, it's fucking beautiful. And it's awesome to see them developing the powers of the animals, because they have powers and weakness like superheroes have. And hearing about the weakness of the monkey, it was I poo when I see a pineapple. It's something like that. So this is the weakness of the monkey. Come on.
Absolutely.
It's awesome.
That's brilliant. No, it's brilliant in the way only a kid would think of it. Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And this is just the team's projects, because in the community is already have other projects that are in maybe more advanced than ours, because we started last year, but we see a lot of good themes and a lot of good mechanics ready to play, and we're just waiting the right moment for coming out. Is there a right moment?
No,
Awesome
I don't think there is. The only time of the year that I avoid, which again, this would be entirely cultural, like in the U.S., like around December, Christmas, no one pays attention to anything in the U.S. It's the only time you don't want to do anything unless you are putting products in retail stores. Is the only thing that gets paid attention at that point in time. But other than that, and any, I'm going to say, equal cultural things that you all have, anytime's the right time. And the one thing, as I've heard all this, that now, all right, now you're gonna have Jim put you on the spot for a minute, okay? Because what you have told me is that you all are incredibly creative individuals. You have already have some amazing ideas. You've already started working on these amazing ideas and have play tested these. You are a public face for your community, and you have told me your community has this problem of having a bunch of ideas and never getting them to completion. So you've told me your ideas now. I want to see them done and completed. And the goal is you have to start getting, once you finish that first thing, finishing everything else gets easy. What's super hard, especially being a creative, is creative minds do terrible things to each other, because we have these wonderful ideas and then we start working on them, and then we have all those other ideas, and this is now work, and the other ideas are creative, and creative brain wants to go over here, and you have to not. So where I'm putting you on the spot is I want to see these projects completed, okay? And I'm going to pester you all a little bit. I'm going to follow up with you a couple times just to make sure that things are pushing forward. And where Jim's going to get disappointed is when he hears that these awesome ideas that you'll have all this passion for right now, you go, yeah, we kind of felt like doing this other thing. No, that's your creative brain drifting over. These ideas are solid. These are the ideas you should be doing. They are great. They're fantastic. They're engaging. They're immediately recognizable, and your community needs them. Do them. Do yourselves and the community a favor and do them. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah, Jim, this community is very inexperienced in publishing. People don't really know what to expect. Don't really know how to approach a final product, or if the product is actually ready to go final. So there's a lot of projects that stay in the drawer or stay in their notebooks, and sometimes they show up in a blog or something like that, or they get compiled on a PDF, but it's never completed, it's never finished. We have probably a couple of independent RPG writers in Portugal that actually have made simple PDFs of their simple games, but their outreach was zero.
Yeah.
They had some following because they were doing podcasts or they had a good blog, but because they were so indie and not at all involved with the big communities like Dungeons and Dragons, they reached very little players in Portugal, and that's a total shame because they were really good projects. Right now, we are starting to do something that has never been done in Portugal, which is exactly organizing dungeon masters, players, creators, writers, artists, and trying to organize them into a cohesive unit so that we can start publishing. And it's, from what we hear from you and from our last guest at this show, it's surprisingly easy and it's much more affordable.
It's work.
Yes, it's work, but it is not
work.
hard. Yes,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And that's the main problem. It's work. It's not a hobby. We're playing this as a hobby, not really as work. We have to look at it as something we need to do, not something we feel like doing because it's just a hobby. We need to throw ourselves in. And I'm talking at myself, you hear?
Yes,
Everyone
indeed.
does.
I'm talking at myself.
Indeed, you are, man. Indeed.
I could probably count on my two hands the number of creative people that are just completely able to just sit down and go, "Ploop, okay, I just work all the time and it's fine," and who don't have wonderful ideas and want to procrastinate the work parts of those ideas. Everyone does. Absolutely everyone does. I'm going to give you this, may be useful, maybe not, but this is a writer's trick that again, I got it from Stephen King's book on writing, but I kind of turned it into a more heavy-handed version of the advice, which is one of the things that stops a lot of people. I call it the doubting 20. Okay. And that is, for the first 20 minutes that I sit down at a keyboard in front of it, I don't believe I can write anything that's good. I think it's going to be terrible. My mind tells me what a horrible person, that everyone's going to laugh at me, and that no one will ever want any of my stuff. Okay. None of that's true. None of that has ever happened. But my brain, every single day when I sit down to type, spends 20 minutes yelling at itself, berating itself in horrific ways. And what I have done, I don't know that this is healthy, but it's going to be my advice to you, or at least what worked for me, is I have just accepted that is part of the process. And I have to sit at my computer for an hour at a time, so that way I get through it, and then I start working. And I go, if my brain doesn't yell at me, I'm not doing it right. If it's yelling at me and telling me all these things, I'm doing the process correctly. And that personally has helped me a lot. The way Stephen King says it is, you have to wait for your muse to show up. He's a little nicer with it, which is, you're going to spend 20 minutes sitting there going like, I don't know what to do or anything. And then suddenly the muse knows where you're going to be, and then it will show up and join you and help you along the way. Mine's a little bit more mean, but a little more reality to me. So that may be something that may or may not help you, but it certainly has helped me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I find myself a lot of times walking through my computer and trying to write the first words, and I think, I'm going to design another thing today. I'm going to do the stream layouts because I know I have to do an article. I'm going to do the design again. It's
I know the exact feeling, and it's your creative brain wanting that endorphin hit of like, ooh, I got to do something instantaneously creative. How awesome does that sound? Which is so much worse than I have to logically and coherently write out things that I've already made, which is the work side of it. So again, my challenge to you all is do the work side of it, because that's not what other people are doing. And I want to see it. Awesome. Even if I can't read it, I want to see it.
Yeah.
Do work until it becomes an hobby.
Yes. I'm feeling this every day, because when I started this new job at Gamification Designer, I thought I was going to just create ideas because that's what I thought it was.
Right.
So the first 2 or 3 months, I had a lot of ideas. I write it on my OneNote, and then it starts the problems. Because when we say gamification design, we think we are going to analyze spreadsheets, Excel, and see what business, how the business of our clients is going, and having something to work on it. So I spend 80% of my time doing database and 20% of time, 15% of time designing something, and 5% of time being creative. So just do the fucking work, man.
Exactly. Do the fucking work. That is the number one advice.
And that is a beautiful topic, tone or sentence to finish this post conversation, guys. Just do the fucking work out there.
Just do the fucking work.
Thank you so much, Jim. Thank you, Bruno. Thank you, Joaquim. Let's wave to our patrons. Thank you for helping us, and we will do the fucking work. Bye bye.
Do the fucking work.
Thank you.